So one of the other concepts within the videos is talking about negative numbers. And some people stumble when it comes to doing the operations, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division with negative numbers and combined with positive numbers. And so we just need to make sure that we have an understanding of that. Those are certainly questions that will be on the CSAT. And so really that concept comes back to our number line again. So if we look at the concept of our number line, and we look at this side of the number line being the positive side and this side being the negative side, we really need to think about the concept that really there's no such thing as subtraction. Really all you're doing is adding a negative number. And so when you take something as negative, you are going in the left direction on the number line. And when you're adding and subtracting numbers like that, which again subtraction is just going in a negative direction or the opposite direction, then this concept helps in that process. And so when we think about doing things like 4 minus 6, for example, well, this is a positive 4, and so we're going to go in the positive direction 4 units. And then this is a minus 6, and so we're going to go this way 4, because that's a positive 4. This is a minus 6, and so we're going to turn around and go the other direction for 6 units. And we're going to get back to negative 2. And so the answer to 4 minus 6 is negative 2. Okay? So you can think about that negative as being a direction on the number line. If we were to have something, say, like 8 minus negative 2. Well, again, this is a positive 8. And so we are going to start in a positive direction, and so we will go this direction 8 units, but then we're going to subtract, and so we're going to turn around a negative, so we're going to turn around again because that's the opposite direction right there. So we're going to turn around again and we're going to go 2 more units, and that means we're going to end up at a positive 10. Now, some of you may have heard the concept that when we take 2 negative signs together, essentially really what we're doing there is multiplication. And so when we have 2 negative signs together, we write one of them as a negative sign and we write the second one as finishing a positive sign, because when you subtract a negative, that's the same thing as adding a positive. Or when you multiply 2 negatives, the answer is a positive, and we're going to get to that next. And so this problem really turns out to be 8 plus 2. And so the answer ends up being 10. So you need to understand that direction on the number line for adding and subtracting positive and negative numbers. Really, when it comes down to this, though, it's always best in math, in my opinion, to have a rule for things, as long as you can understand that rule and follow that rule. Okay? And rules within math are very specific. And in fact, I refer you to a video. It's an old comedy sketch. It's an old comedy sketch about rules of math and the fact that you can't make up your own rules within math. You have to follow the rules. If we all could make up our own rules, then we would never get the same answer as anybody else. Okay, and so so you can watch that video. It's pretty good, and be able to see the reason why we need rules. And so for us to be able to establish rules here for addition and subtraction of negative numbers, basically what we're always going to do with that rule is make it to where we are adding and subtracting just 2 numbers. Okay? So we're always adding and subtracting 2 numbers, and we're going to break down the rules in that way. So if we look at the rules for adding and subtracting positive and negative numbers. Okay. Well, we break the rules down in a couple different steps here. Okay, and those rules get broken down to where if we are adding two numbers that are of the same sign, so if the numbers have the same sign. So, in other words, they are both positive or both negative. So we're limiting ourselves to problems that are like that for right now. Okay? Then we are going to add the numbers. And take whatever sign they both were. If they were both positive, then the answer is positive. If they were both negative, then the answer is negative. Okay? If the numbers are opposite signs, in other words, one positive, the other negative, then we are going to subtract the numbers. And when I'm saying add the numbers and subtract the numbers, I'm talking about just the number part without the sign there, just the numeral. Okay? We're going to subtract the numbers, and remember when we subtract, we always subtract the smaller from the larger. Now again, we're just talking about the numerals, we're not talking about any sign attached to it. So whatever the smaller number is, you take it away from the larger number. You subtract the numbers and take the sign of the larger. So whatever number was bigger, again, no signs attached to it, just whatever number was bigger, you take that sign when they are opposite signs. Okay? So if they're both the same sign, you add them together and you take whatever sign they were. If they were opposite signs, you subtract the two numbers and you take the sign of the larger. Now, there's a couple of assumptions within this that I've said here. The fact that when we're talking about the numbers here, we're talking about just the digit. We're not talking about the sign in front of it. Okay? We are also talking about breaking up this process of adding numbers together into pairs of numbers. So if you have a sequence of numbers that you're trying to add together, if you have a whole list of numbers, then the easiest way to do that is to add up all the negative numbers, and of course, because they're all the same sign, you make them negative. Add up all the positive numbers in that list and make those positive to where now we only have two numbers and we follow these rules then. Okay? So that's the easiest way to deal with a whole list of numbers. Okay? And this kind of takes away the concept of subtraction, other than the fact that we are going to take the smaller from the larger here. Okay? So, here are the general rules of adding and subtracting positive and negative numbers. Okay? So, let's just take some quick examples of some problems like this. Okay? So, let's say that just a real easy one, and just to look at the rules, applying the rules. If we have 6 minus 2, most of us can do that in our head, but still, let's apply the rules. Well, this one's positive, this one's negative, so they're opposite signs. Therefore, we are going to subtract the numbers, which is what we would have done anyway, but 6 minus 2, right, is 4. And we're going to take the number of the sign of the larger. Well, the 6 is the bigger between these two, and the 6 is positive, therefore this answer is positive. It's a positive 4. Now, what if we switch that? What if we had the problem 2 minus 6 instead? Okay. Well, again, they're opposite signs, and so we're going to subtract the smaller number from the larger number. 2 is smaller than 6. So 6 minus 2 is 4. Okay. But we're going to take the sign of the larger number. Well, the bigger of these two numbers is 6, and it's negative, and so our answer here is a negative 4. Okay. What if we had something like negative 8 plus 3? Well, they're opposite signs. It's the first thing we look at. Because they're opposite signs, we are going to subtract. And so 8 minus 3 is 5. Always the smaller from the larger. Okay? And then we're going to look at their signs and take the sign of the larger. Well, 8 is bigger than 3, and so 8 is negative. Therefore, our answer is negative. So the answer to this is negative 5. If we had something like negative 2 minus 7, okay? If we're going to subtract those, or combine those two numbers, well, they're the same sign this time. So because they're the same sign, we're going to add the numbers. So 2 plus 7 is 9. And then we look at their sign, and because they are both negative, this answer is negative. And so that's a -9. Okay? Hopefully that process makes sense. Those rules are good rules to memorize and know, and that just helps you be able to do the problems much quicker. Okay? Now, I don't know if this is confusing or not, but the rules for multiplication of positive and negative numbers are actually easier than these rules. They just kind of fall out a little bit quicker and easier. And so let's look at the rules for multiplying positive and negative numbers instead. So let's change these to where we are multiplying positive and negative numbers. All right? So if we are multiplying positive and negative numbers here, our rules are very similar, so make sure you don't get them confused with the addition rules. Okay? But again, we start by looking at the sign. So if, and again, we're looking at this as pairs of numbers always. So we're looking at multiplying two numbers together. So if both are the same sign, the answer is always positive. Okay? So if you're multiplying two positive numbers together, you get a positive answer. If you are multiplying two negative numbers together, then you get a positive answer. It always works that way. All right? And then our other option, of course, would be if they are opposite signs. So if they are opposite signs,